there's too many people that are telling you what's going on. I mean, this is something Circa and I laugh about all the time. There's a lot of great marketers out there that will read a book and then write a book about the book they just read. Screw those guys, man. It's like there's people teaching you, here, we're going to teach you how to be a hit songwriter. And I'm like, dude, you haven't written a hit in 15 years. So how are you doing that?
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Indepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to Creative Juice. I'm your host, Circa. And then I have a special guest here for this special episode of Creative Juice. Corinna's not with me, but I had a moment here in the day to interview a very busy man who I've formed a friendship with over the last year or so. And his name is Rick Barker. How's it going, Rick?
It is doing well in my world, and I'm excited to finally be on this end. You and I have had a chance to have some amazing conversations. Yeah. I remember when you were a guest on my podcast, an indie comes on and he puts in the comments, he goes, "It's about damn time you two got together."
That's hilarious. Yeah. We've had a lot of crossover from your audience to ours. People shout you out in the group sometimes. And yeah, so for those of you listening who don't know who Rick is, which I can't imagine is a broad majority of people, but just for those few who don't, Rick is the former manager of Taylor Swift and has worked a lot with, her former record label, Big Machine, over the years. And that's impressive stuff in the music industry. But the coolest thing for me is how much work you've done with people in the marketing space and how much coaching and training you've been through with some people who I admire a great deal. That's the cooler stuff for me, but I know that the music industry folks want to hear all of those accolades.
Well, what's interesting though is that that's kind of how I found out about Perpetual Traffic was through you, a conversation we've had as you've been a guest on my podcast one time. We've had a couple dozen phone calls. It's like we've had some really interesting conversations, and most of the conversations that we have are marketing related. Yeah. Because both of us have come to realize that it doesn't matter how great your music is if no one hears it.
Right.
And we also know that creatives, you also being a musician, they just a lot of times want to create. So when people like yourself, people like myself can go out and learn these other tips and tricks, working inside the major label system and in the independent label system, I was able to see a lot of, I don't want to call them mistakes, because as you and I've discussed in the past, people only know what they know, but they were leaving so much on the table by not just going out and learning what these digital marketers were doing. I made a comment one time when I decided to take my business online about 6 years ago. I said, I'm in an industry where we create more content than anyone in the world, and we're getting our butts handed to us by real estate agents and other people doing white papers and free ebooks. And I'm like, wait, how do we get all this music out to the world? Because the traditional system, I always tell people there's a difference between the music business and the music industry. The music industry is geared towards radio. It's like, if it can't get to radio, they can't make a dime and they're screwed. Well, there's only so many spots that are available with radio, and with the introduction of streaming, and with the introduction even before that with the internet and downloads, it's like, wait a minute, now artists have the ability to go direct to the consumer. So how do we get that message? How do we find those people? How do we make sure that we're targeting the right people? And that's where digital marketing comes into play.
Yeah. And I think that we definitely had some early alignment there. It's just once you start listening to people, just to go over the list, for those of you guys out there, so some of my favorite marketers are I was really into Ryan Levesque early on, and Ryan Levesque, you've taken his Ask method, full training, gone out and hung out with him and stuff. Blitz Metrics, Dennis Yu is one of the smartest guys online when it comes to, marketing for any type of business.
Right.
And And you've like trained directly with him and his team. So can you tell us a little bit about like those experiences? Like
Sure.
what caused you to start like, cause you've already like been pretty impressive places in the music industry, worked with some like big television shows and big artists. What prompted you to like kind of swallow your pride a little bit and step into that area where like maybe you were a fresh start?
Sure. So I started realizing with Taylor, let's go back to Taylor, to the very beginning when Taylor and I started together, all we had was MySpace. And what I realized was there was a platform that you could post your music and have direct communication with your fans. So early on, I mean, one of the reasons why her family and the record label even approached me to be her manager was the fact that I was already looking at things different. And I think part of it, Scott Borchetta, who's the president of Big Machine Records, and those of you that are watching the news lately, Taylor's got a big old beef with him and Scooter Braun, which we won't even get into. That's a whole nother episode in itself. But what he said to me when he hired me is I said, Scott, why me? You could grab anybody you wanted. He said, I say this as a compliment. He said, but you're too dumb to know any better. And I kind of paused for a second. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I know I didn't finish high school. I know I did way too many drugs in the 80s, but my brain couldn't comprehend the fact that that was a compliment. And he said, Rick, he said, look, he says, I'm starting this record label with a 15-year-old that no one's ever heard of, a regional act out of Texas named Jack Ingram. And most people will use that as a reason for it to fail. You seem to use that as a reason to move forward.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I like that. And Taylor came to me, and Polestar documented this when they interviewed her on why she had chose me as her manager. They was like, why did you choose Rick? And she said, well, I told him that I wanted a gold record. And for those of you in the United States, that's 500,000 records that had to be sold at the time. My answer to her was, let's go out and meet 500,000 people.
Right.
And what I saw was that the internet and MySpace was going to allow us to do that even faster. So fast forward, Facebook comes on board. Her and I don't have access to Facebook because neither one of us are students, but her fiddle player happened to go to Belmont University. So we were able to start using Emily's Facebook page to start talking to people. And then this thing called YouTube showed up, and we just started posting up YouTube videos. And then all of a sudden, Instagram comes around. Now, I had already left Taylor by the time Instagram came around. But what I kept noticing was that every time a new social platform showed up, it expanded the reach. It allowed us to get in front of people faster. But it wasn't that we could get in front of everyone, and we didn't need to get in front of everyone. So when I decided to go all in after I left Taylor, I was managing artist. I was working at Sony Music. I was, consulting them. I was consulting a couple independent labels. I went on to American Idol, did some of the first Facebook Lives ever with musicians.
Right.
Which, by the way, when people always ask me, how did you get verified on, Facebook and Instagram? It's because of my involvement with American Idol. They just saw that I was teaching it. They verified the top 12 finalists, and one of them looked at me and said, look, this guy's teaching this stuff all over. You guys should verify him too. And I had a book that was out. So that's how I got verified. I'm nobody special.
Yesterday I was listening to like a backlog of Perpetual Traffic episodes, podcast we've both been on, and by the wonderful and talented Outfit Digital Marketer. And I was listening to this episode about social media, just like organic social media. And this team was saying, yeah, getting verified on Instagram has nothing to do with followers. Has nothing to do with existing reach. It's literally like press.
Right.
Do you have significant press out there about you that like shows that you're a significant public figure? And I imagine like right around then, like you're being mentioned in all these articles about the show and stuff. And like, so that probably kicked you up there.
That did. And somebody, and Facebook had just purchased Instagram. So someone at Facebook who I had a relationship with, I had just gotten verified on Facebook. Twitter was the first one I got verified on. And that's back when it was easy. It's like you have a book, you have some following. And I worked with Taylor. Done. They, blue check mark, off it went.
Right.
It was the Instagram one where the guy at Facebook said, hey, let me just talk to my buddy who's handling it over an Instagram, and I'll take care of that for you. So
nice.
That's kind of how it happened. But what I started realizing when I started putting all this information out is I was doing things like what marketers were doing, the 5 keys to success in the music business. And then someone introduced me to Ryan, and I read his book, The Ask Method. And I was like, holy cow, wait a minute. It's like I have these different groups of people that come to me for different reasons. I've got the parents of the talented teenagers. That's the low hanging fruit because of Taylor. The artist that's under 30, the artist that's over 30. And then there was this thing, Ryan calls them buckets. There was this group of people that wanted to be me, that didn't want to go to Berkeley, didn't want to go to Belmont, didn't want to spend a bunch of money trying to get a degree in theory, but wanted to work in the business. And they realized that I had never gone to school. How did I do it? So I'm thinking to myself going, wait a minute, the 5 keys to success are different to all those different groups. So I can't speak, I just can't shoot one video and speak one language. It's the same way with indies. Someone who's purchased your CDs is different than someone that just found you on a playlist. The
Right.
communication has to be very different. The end result is the same, but the communication to get them there is different. And one of the things Ryan said is he said, when you go to Apple, they're going to ask you, are you a student or are you a small business? Now, it's the same computer that they're going to sell you, but the communication to get you to the buying decision is completely different. So I went all in. And one of the things that I learned, and it took me a lot of money and a lot of headache and a lot of wasted hours doing this, is I immediately said, what's the most advanced level you have that gives me the most access to you? They said, it's our year-long coaching program. It's 15 grand. I said, I'm in.
Right.
Someone asked me on a panel recently, what would you have done different? I said, I would have stopped trying to nickel and dime in the beginning of my learning phase. I was always trying to pay the least amount of money. And what I realized is that's also the least amount of access and the least amount of speed that goes into this when we buy extra things. So for Dennis Yu, it was the same situation. It's like I figured if everyone's hanging out on Facebook, I need to go learn how to become a better Facebook marketer, especially on the retargeting side. So I always laugh, and I'll show this. I don't have a high school diploma, but I'm holding up my certificate achievement right now from Dennis Yu, man, at Blitz Metrics as a Facebook marketer.
Right.
I'm more proud of that.
I've never actually given, I think I bought Levesque's book, and I've never actually given Dennis Yu any money, but I could tell you for hours about like how his strategies work. So like I'm one of those like bottom feeder scavengers that just like I need information right. I don't even have time to go through a checkout page. Like let me Google cross-reference. And I'm just like
that's
digesting.
A skill too. I mean, that is a skill that most people don't have. And you also have this mindset where you weird out on that stuff. I mean, you and Corinne are like, I call you Rain Man. You guys love the numbers. You love all that different stuff. I really don't. I know I need to know it, but that's why I refer so many people to you. And that's why I get on so many conversations with you, is because I don't need to sit in a room and spend time with me. I already have me.
Right.
I need to spend time with people that have a different idea. It's like we're all searching for the same way to help indies and creatives in general get their music out to the world. I don't understand the numbers a lot of times. And it's like the other night I had some videos I had to shoot, and then I'm on the phone with this kid who's doing SEO for me, and he's talking to me about UTMs, and halfway through the conversation, I'm like, dude, I'm exhausted right now. I said, how much of this stuff is it that I have to do? And how much is it that you're doing, that I'm paying you to do? Because I don't want to know all this stuff. I really don't. My brain, I need to understand enough about it. I tell people in the beginning, they're like, well, Rick, didn't you build your first websites and do all your own email marketing? And I said, yes, but I was about to teach it. So I needed to understand it. I needed to know at the time what wish list member was. I needed to build my first WordPress site. I mean, hell, you just went through a massive build on your WordPress site. So because we also
it's actually a year old and we're about to do it again.
Oh my gosh. I know how much work you put into that. So God bless you,
I think it comes with maturity where you start to say like you prioritize better. Like it takes going through that. Like, just like you said, like you built your own WordPress to know like, okay, here's where my strengths lie. Here's where I'm going to outsource. You know what I mean? Like it
Sure.
comes with that maturity of like being through it and saying like, oh, I know how to tear down my own ideas. So let someone else do that for me, you know?
Well, and in the beginning stages too, for you indies, it's like you are your first manager, your first record company, your first publisher,
Right.
your first website builder, your first booking agent. These are all things that you need to understand in the beginning. And then as you start getting more success, whatever success means to you, because it's different to everyone else, then you start outsourcing some of those things. I know a lot about social media, but right now, the only social media of my own that I handle is the creation of the content and my Instagram stories. Everything else, I have somebody else scheduling it out. I'm not beneficial to the community that I serve by spending my day scheduling Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter posts. I have somebody who does that.
Right.
But in the beginning, I was a one-man show until I started generating enough revenue to be able to hire some people and outsource those people. I never looked at it as, oh, I can't afford to do this. I started getting resourceful and saying, okay, what is it that I need to do in order to do this? I started investing in my business. I didn't look at things and say, man, I can't afford that. I started looking at things like, can I afford not to do that? I have credit cards,
Right.
It's like I'm my own bank. It's like at some point as a business, which all of you are, you need to invest in your business. You're going to need to probably borrow money from your business. I just chose to borrow it for myself. So I'm blessed that I have good credit. So I'll run a credit card up, I'll pay it off. I'll run a credit card up, I'll pay it off. But I've been able to finance my own growth in my business because of that. So when I need to make, I'm involved in Russell Brunson's 2 Comma Club coaching right now. Why? Because I needed coaching. I needed people to show me the things that I needed. It's $30,000 a year. Well, my business is set up properly. That's an expense.
Right.
It's not like I lose that. The knowledge and education that I learned, no one can ever take that from me. So what I've been doing is trying to restructure the mindset of the artists that I come in contact with, whether it be through my podcast or, the book that's out there or whatever it is to say, look, here's the thing. If you want to have a successful business, these are the things that all successful businesses have. One is they have someone who's running the business who understands it.
Right.
It's not necessarily the employees. I sit there and I go, okay, I am the leader of my business, but I have these different departments. That's the same thing for you as an indie. It's like you need these different departments in order to help your business succeed. So where do you get the best information and knowledge about these businesses? I tell people how important Facebook ads are. I don't go into super detail on how to run them. I refer them over to you guys because you do that with your program and with your fan finders and things like that. Also, too, and I tell you and Corinne this all the time, you're way too cheap.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I think we're creating monsters, and I know some people are going to go, "Oh, screw you, Rick Barker." But sometimes because people like Circa and Corinne, if you guys only knew the amount of hours that go into what it is that they give to you guys most of the time for free, you'd be blown away. They'd be absolutely blown away if they were able to follow you around for 1 week and see all the time, energy, effort, money, resources that you guys put into creating what it is that you give them access to. And that's what blows me away about you guys. That's why I push as much business to you guys as I can, because I'm like, that is by far, you are the value meal at McDonald's. You're going to give them as much as they can get on that dollar menu. And I love you.
And another side of that is if you track the amount of people who actually get into one of our trainings versus the amount of use, there's a pretty big disparity there. There's a lot of arbitrage between people who put down that, whatever small amount of money we're charging and people who actually get the value out of it. So, like you've said to me in the past, like people who don't pay attention.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, like as much as the inner me wants to be like, no, man, fuck that. Like, it's true. Like,
Right.
it's totally true.
Jay Abraham said to me one time, and Jay's another great marketer, is I said to
Jay's
Jay,
a legendary marketer.
well, there was a chance. Once again, when I see opportunities, I take it. So I got this email, and Jay, by the way, for you guys that don't understand, Jay's like $20,000 to $30,000 a day. Companies paid this guy to come in and take a look at their business. He's very thorough. So he was doing this, and he put out an email that said, hey, are you a coach, or are you looking to do coaching, or do you have programs? He says, I'm getting ready to go to China, and I have to teach in front of an auditorium of like 20,000 people. He said, but I want to try out this new strategy. I'll let you guys come spend a week with me. It's only $5,000, but it's only limited to 30 people. And boom, I threw down my $5,000 right away. I get there. Right. I'm the only guy in the music business. So Jay sits down.
That's dope.
And he puts everybody on a hot seat. So what's weird is I'm in this room with all these millionaires, and I'm the only guy that has like a membership program or has all this stuff. Right. Another thing that's interesting, and then I'll finish that story. I spent a lot of money with Brendan Burchard. I spent a lot of money with Ryan Levesque. There were so many people that I met at these high-end functions who had never looked at the program that they bought from Brendan. They just showed up to live events.
Right.
I'm like, all these stupid questions you guys are asking, he talks about in detail, or they have never read these guys' books. So with Jay, I'm going all in. I mean, I bought a hard drive one time for like $1,000 that had every presentation he's ever done, every whatever, all the swipe files. I mean, I'm that guy. It's like, if I can get it, I'll get a hold of it. So as I'm sitting with Jay, he said, Rick, can I give you a title for the copy of your book? And I wasn't planning on writing another book, but I'm like, hell yeah, this guy's had a whole bunch of #1 New York Times bestsellers. I said, sure, Jay, what should be the title of my book? He says, Why Almost Everyone is Wrong About the Music Industry.
Yeah.
So I wrote that down. I'm like, okay, cool. This is going to be my book. So he sits there and I said, Jay, here's the biggest problem that I have right now is, what do I charge? What do I price things at? He says, here's how I do it, Rick. He says, I keep raising the price until they do the work. He said, I hate when someone will spend money and they won't do the work. He says, because that ends up looking bad on me and the services that I provide. So like this year, for example, I'm switching my business over to management, where I'm managing more artists. So a lot of people that have been with me for a little while, they're coming up for renewal. And we're having a conversation. It's like, look, I showed up to all 50 coaching calls. I answered every email that was sent to me. I said, you didn't. So you need to figure out if this is really worth it to you or not, because I don't want a whole bunch of people running around saying they're being managed by Rick Barker. And then when you look at their socials or their websites, you're like, oh my gosh, that's not good at all. That Rick Barker must not know what he's doing. Look at that person's website.
Right.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Come on, guys. It's like we're doing everything we can to give you access to the resources that you need. We're spending way more money and way more time than any of you are. And I say that respectfully, but we are. I mean, we're doing everything we can, because somebody asked me, they said, Rick, what is your goal? I said, my goal is to influence millions of people with songs that I never wrote or performed by teaching creatives how to get their message out to the world. I watched physically in 3.5-hour meet and greet lines the effect that music had on Taylor, and knowing that I played a small part in getting that music to that consumer, man, it meant the world to me. I was watching lives get changed, and I'm like, wow, I had a small part to do with that. I'm excited about that.
There's so many things that I picked up as you were talking, like that. I just got to like organize them in the right order. But but number one, it's like with someone like Jay Abraham, like that guy's got the experience of like billions and billions of dollars in related sales to like the things that he's taught, and like some of the concepts that are well worn in business now that almost seem like milquetoast because they're just so well known. He originated them. So like to hear it come from that guy is like super important. And I definitely will have to admit, like, as much as we want to keep prices low, to lower the barrier to entry, that does invite in a lot of people who just don't ever really like take the training. They're like, I'll get to it. Like
Right.
it's such a low amount of money that they feel like it's no big deal if I can get to it. And they'll let that happen forever. So I totally feel you there. But yeah, like that said, like even charging what what you found actually gets people to show up and do the work. It's probably far less than you'd get out of like if you were like a business marketing advisor and consultant. And so that's kind of like when you started talking about your why, I was really curious because it's like, I know what I'm worth in business marketing, right? And the only fucking reason I don't do that is because I hate it, right?
Right.
And this is the only thing I can do that I truly like love doing. But I know what the disparity is there in terms of income. A lot of people are surprised, like my business marketing compadres are surprised to find out what my like salary is. And, like, I'm like, no, it's like, that's all I need to survive. But like, What is it for you? Why do this instead of like all the money that you could make advising people for their actual like small business versus a music business?
I have always been in love with the music. And I also too truly believe that, and I'll be honest, I do really well on the music side of things. I found people, my son was funny one time. He says, Dad, what is it that you do? I said, I solve problems. I said, I usually solve them for about 97 to 147 bucks, but I solve them for thousands of people at a time, multiple times a year. And he's like, oh, okay. I said, if you can always solve people's problems. So I was teasing someone the other day because I also do work in the entrepreneurial space. And it's interesting because I teach them the exact same things when it comes to setting up your business, setting up your socials, registering, everything that I teach in the music business. I also teach in the entrepreneurial space. I have a program called the Passive Income Blueprint. It's It's $997 for a year of coaching and these online programs. When I make that offer from the stage, people come back to me and they go, that's it? That's all it costs to get a year with you?
In that space for a year of coaching, that's like 20% of market.
But think about it like this. I have the same exact offer in the music space where I'm actually a manager and I help people. And that's less than $85 a month. You have a manager with experience helping you guide your career. And people are like, oh my gosh, how could you ask an independent? We're starving artists. I'm like, you know what? Hold on. Wait a minute. You're a business.
Yeah.
Whether you want to believe it or not, you're a business. And if you can't afford
also so that like
a general manager in your business for $1,000 a year, who are you?
Right. Yeah. And presumably it keeps out people. Like one thing that sucks is sometimes people will take our trainings where like I might have, if I had a moment to advise them, been like, I don't think this is the right thing for you in your career right now. And we've had talks about like, should we put some copy on the sales page that like talks about like who it's not right for? Maybe that would help cut down on that instance. And it's been a problem for like the last year that we frequently discuss. Like, how do we forewarn people like and just really make sure we're talking to the right person? Because we're able to do it at the agency level. We have like long conversations and we often send more declinations than accepting, people in.
Right.
And we don't have the opportunity to do that. But like doing it with price, I think is what Jay Abraham was describing, is like you actually are preventing starving artists from using that, because it's like, no, you should have a little bit of like, momentum probably.
But here's where I have a problem with some of that is this. I have artists that are doing really well with me right now that for whatever reason really can't afford financially to do it, but they're all in. So I never want to eliminate that person because I grew up poor, man. I grew up with a single mom working 3 jobs and I hustled my butt off. I worked everything that I could to do this. And there's a lot of very talented people out there that they may not have the money, but they've got the hustle. And I never want to deter them. I mean, there's people that I'm even nervous to say this right now, but there's people that I have programs that I've sold for thousands of dollars that I've had somebody come to me and I say, you know what, give me $100 and I'm going to give you the same exact access. I know you're in a tough spot right now, but I know you're going to do the work, and I know you're going to go out and have some success.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I just opened up a can of worms, I'm
Yeah.
sure, by saying that. But there was a guy that came to me and I said, look, here's the deal. I need you to have something in. I said, because I just can't give it to you. Free has value. It's called free. I said, I can't give it to you, but can you afford $100? Yes, Rick, I can afford $100. Will you do the work? Yes. If you don't do the work and you don't show up, I will remove you from that group. Do you understand? Yes. He killed it. And the number of people that he's referred to me, he's now made more money referring people into my program than he has in his music business, but he's getting better. So I never want to discourage that person from thinking that. But with any business, you have to make investments into your business. There's a lot of people that feel entitled. We're never going to change that. Something that I learned a long time ago, and Indies, pay attention to what I'm going to say to you right now. Not all money is the right money. Same for a gig. Someone may say, hey, here's $1,000 for this gig. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's $1,000 for the gig. Then you see what they want and expect and demand for that $1,000. And you're like, holy crap, I can't take this. That's kind of the same way I feel about certain people that come into my world. I'll give you a real good example. I had this lady show up. She heard my story. For those of you that don't know my story, I'm 27 years sober. I went from living homeless on the streets, strung out on crack, to launching one of the biggest stars in the world. The reason that I share that story is to show people that your past doesn't necessarily define your future if you don't want it to. But this woman heard that I was in recovery. She heard that I was a Christian, and she was this Christian artist, but she was a Christian artist that was very charismatic. It's like, if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell kind of thing. So she pays $2,000 to come into my highest level program. And immediately she goes into the Facebook group and she just starts bashing on people. This one little girl posts up her website, because I have a very collaborative group, and she was getting feedback. And this woman came in and she goes, oh, I can see by the dark website and the font that you're using that you've got very satanic demon stuff in you. And I'm like, holy shit, where's this coming from? And that poor little girl, is just kind of freaking out. So I hide the comment. I call up this gal and I said, listen, this has to be a safe place for people. I said, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're entitled to it in your house, not in my house. And this is my house that I put together, and these are all my guests. I said, I really can't have you like that. She said, but Rick, I really need you to like my music. I said, I don't need to like your music to be able to help you. She goes, but I really need you. God sent you to me, and God told me, that I was supposed to be with you. And I said, well, if we're going to be honest, last night when I was talking to God, he never brought you up. I have no idea what conversation you're having with him, but I just don't think this is going to work. And I ended up giving her money back, and I ended up moving her on. And I think that's super important as indies start developing these smaller communities. It's like, just because someone can afford to come into your community, if they're bad for the whole community, sometimes you need to walk away from that.
That happens all the time with people's fan bases. There's that one super fan who's just a little bit possessive, or
And people will ask me all the time, how do you handle it? I said, well, you never handle it in public. So you don't do it in a forum. You send them a message, you pull them off to the side, and you kind of let them know how much you appreciate them as a fan. I mean, everyone wants to be your friend. It's like I tell people, when clients come into my world, one of my programs, my cell phone number is part of the offer. It's like, hey, you have a quick emergency, shoot me a text. I'll be able to answer this question for you. I said, but you're not to text me every day and ask how my day is. We're not friends. My wife doesn't even text me every day and ask me how my day is going. I said, so that's not what it's for. And some people take offense to that, but I would rather them take offense to it early and not come into my world than come into my world and put all these, have all these expectations that they're not going to get. They're really not going to get it. I can't serve the community. I mean, the whole reason that I stopped doing day-to-day management, which is very exhausting, and what a lot of people don't understand is in the first 2 years of an artist's career, especially when they're signed to a major label, there's no money.
Right.
The money's not rolling in. Even if you have a publishing deal, a major label book, a major label deal, a booking agent, there's no money that's coming in. But that's when the manager is doing all the work. And if you've got 3 or 4 day-to-day clients, you don't have time to help everyone else. So what I did was I said, okay, how do I eliminate this nightmare and be able to open up myself and be able to help more people? And that's what I've been able to do with what it is that I teach and what it is that I do, is using these great resources. The same resources that all of you have available to you are the same resources that I use. I use my podcast. I use my YouTube channel. I use my social media platforms. I use my website. I use my email list. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, guys? Those are all the same tools that you have in your business to go out and break through the noise and hopefully bring people into your world to start building that relationship. Because here's the part that sucks right now for musicians. As of today, and probably for the foreseeable future, no one has to purchase your products in order to consume them. That's like walking into McDonald's and getting everything for free. Hey, I'll take a Big Mac. How long would those businesses survive if everyone could just walk in and take whatever they wanted? That's the business we're in the music business right now.
Yeah.
And that sucks. Trust me, it sucks. I'm not excited about that at all. So what happens is when someone starts investing in you, they're investing in the relationship. That's why the fan finders are so important. You're breaking through the noise. You're finding the right person. You're bringing them in through an email. And now is when you get to start building the relationship, because ultimately they'll support their friends. So we have to go out there and start making friends. And that's what I'm trying to encourage and teach and promote for all the artists that I work with, is how do we go find the right audience for you and feed that audience?
Friends at scale.
Yes, yes. And scale quick. Scale quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all. Well, yeah, definitely, like, in terms of what, like, we teach, we're definitely a lot more like do it yourself, like actually physically put your fingers on the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
But as I get further in my business, like, I realize that how much I can't do everything, and like how much I do have to outsource. And I think that both mentalities are necessary. There's a time for each,
There is. And I think we're more, and you always hear about the DIY, do it yourself. I'm more about the done with you, the DWY. I think that, having the right people that you can ask questions for, being in the right group community where you can ask a question and you get the answer, that's somebody doing it with you. You still may physically have to lift something or put something in place, but when you have the ability to go into a group and shortcut the learning, that's what it's all about. That's why you want to get yourself people in the best possible communities that you can. That's why I invest in all this digital marketing stuff, because they also come with great groups that if I have a quick question, I can go in and ask it, and there'll be 45 people that will give me the answer. That saved me hours of having to go on Google or YouTube or trying to figure it out and walk through the process myself. I was able to jump in and ask a quick question. That's what I love about my Facebook community, is that I tell people, I said, you go in there and ask a question, trust me, someone's going to give you the answer before I even see it.
Right.
And that happens in your group. I'm in that group. I'm in there. I see what happens. It's like, you don't even have to come in and say anything. They ask a question, they get it answered.
Yeah, definitely. And I find that the people who are often answering the questions, and really the indies that, like, there's, I don't know if you have this with your community, but we have tons of indies who take our trainings and then never say anything else to us, but they're doing great with it. And we don't find out until like 6-8 months down the road. They're like, oh yeah, I'm killing it. And it's like, oh, thanks for the heads up, man.
Right.
They're not in the group. They're, and it's just frustrating. But yeah, like I find that the people who have actually like gotten the firmest understanding of digital marketing, like at a fundamental level and business, is the people that I've had I or Corinne or Jack have had a chance to work one-on-one with, our indie founders. So there's definitely there's a notable quality to working directly with someone and being able to correct. Because what happens is someone will misunderstand something and they might travel 20 yards before they're course corrected. But if you can course correct them at yard 1, that changes the fundamental underlying understanding of why you would be led to this decision or that decision when, working with Facebook ads or email marketing or, anything. So it's a notable difference working one-on-one.
I love that. And the people that I work one-on-one with too, what's funny is they'll show up to I do these 2.5 hour management sessions once a week. and they'll be in the group on the call, not even asking questions. It's like they're not bringing me a specific question, but they're helping contribute to the answers of everyone else. Another thing I want to warn everyone about too is when you get into these groups, like the Indepreneur group or my group and things like that, there's always going to be very opinionated people. Make sure they're doing the work. There's a lot of people that have answers to everything that actually don't do shit.
Right.
And I had to kind of put a kibosh on that as well. I don't want them coming into my group and posting articles or, hey, you guys should try out this product. Send that email to me. Let me try it out. If I like it, I'll share it with the group. But it's also for the ability to give feedback. It's like if I don't use for MailChimp, for example, I can give advice on MailChimp, get response, and things like that. But if you're throwing in SendGrid, I may not know SendGrid. So I can't help support that because I don't know it. It's not that I don't think it's a great company or Constant Contact or AWeber or everyone else. They're fantastic. But inside my group, I can only comment on what it is that I use. I can only help you with what it is that I know. I'm not going to go out and learn a new program just to be able to answer your question. That's not going to happen at all. And that's what a lot of times some people expect. I also have a strict rule. If your question starts with how to, go to Google or YouTube. That's their job, not mine.
Right.
Type it in.
Yeah.
How to.
I feel that. Yeah.
Because our goal, what you guys may not understand, is that our goal is to guide you to the answers. It's not to give you the answers to everything, or else you become dependent on us and we may not always be around.
Yeah, our phrase on the team is fit fun, which is figure it the fuck outedness, which is a very necessary, like you need to have a lot of that. You need to have a lot of it.
I love that.
And that's like, because you might hear that, like, if you've ever taken our trainings, you might hear that and be like, well, you're supposed to help me figure it out. It's like, totally. But like, no, there's no training in the world for any topic in the world that doesn't have peculiarities to your context, that doesn't have little road bumps, that doesn't have a random shift in the UI of a platform. Right. And now it looks a little bit different. You need to have some modicum of like fit fun. You need to be able to get over those roadblocks. And if I can get over them, you can get over them, because I, like Rick, had like a very difficult past and I wasn't always able to like figure things out, but it's a skill that I've taken on. But yeah, like totally, like I agree that there needs to be a level of like, don't raise your hand whenever you don't understand something. Look in the book and see if you can figure it out. Sometimes.
Or bring a question. A lot of times too is I'll hear a question and I'll say, okay, look, let's take this to the group because everyone can learn from it. And unfortunately, we're in a business where no two artists' career paths have ever been the same. It's not like kindergarten where you get a book and then after you finish that book, you do the next book. It's like not everyone's learning at the same pace. This isn't school. Even though we're providing education, we're not providing it in a school setting. And sometimes that's why I'm not a big fan of some of these online programs or where they drip the content, because not everyone's at the same place. It's like when you go, and I'm not going to bring up a name of an online university who does a certificate course for $13,000, but when you're looking at Music Business 101 and Publishing 101, those are very broad topics. And the reason that they're very broad is because the business changes so fast. But I don't want to be stuck in a place that I can't move at my own pace. I want to be able to move at my own pace. And all of you should want to be able to move at your own pace. The secret, though, is making sure that you're not moving too fast. Unfortunately, a lot of you are graduating yourself quicker than your skill set is deemed you're able to move forward. And it sucks sometimes, so sometimes we need to go back. I always tell people, if your music sucks, I can't help you, because all I'm going to help you do is magnify crap.
Right.
And get attention on crap and get eyeballs on crap. So let's get the music right first, and then we'll focus on some of these other things.
People don't really like to hear that. Like, there's some people who have trouble with like, what do you mean have great music? Like, that's popped up in our group recently. It's popped up in comments like on our ads and stuff. And it's weird. Like, it's weird that it's popped up in multiple places from different people, all in the same time frame. But yeah, like people are starting to maybe like look at that a little more carefully. And that's good, because like it's another one of those things. Like,
yeah. Well, here's what we mean by great music. So if we're going to teach you a Spotify playlist strategy, let's say that we're going to teach you how to write the proper email to get the attention of this playlist curator. And on that playlist, is Drake and Chance the Rapper and Kendrick Lamar, your music is going to, if you're wanting it to fit on that playlist, is going to fit in between those artists. And if it doesn't sound like it belongs there, that's not us being a dick. That's not us saying your music isn't great. It's like it's like, what is it you're wanting to do? I tell people, go find a hungry audience and feed it. I don't give a shit how good your hamburger is. If you open it up in a town of vegetarians, you screwed yourself. Doesn't matter how good the burger is. We're all, sometimes I say we, because I did it as well, folks, is we're trying to get everybody to consume our stuff. Everyone's not going to do it. So depending on the level that you want to go at, unfortunately, good doesn't cut it anymore because of the internet. My mother-in-law can put a song up on iTunes tonight and she can't sing, but she can get in the way. So good doesn't break through. Good doesn't cut it. Good's okay if you want to be a hobbyist, but if you're not going to get the music right, don't come complain to us that no one's signing up for your list or no one's sharing your video or no one's sharing your post.
People are having trouble with that because like not all great musicians know that they have great music.
Right.
And not all bad musicians know that they have bad music. And so it's like, what's the functional definition? How do I differentiate? And I think it comes down to like, when you show it to people, dead giveaway, are they silent the whole time and then they say something very short like, oh, that's cool. Like, then you need to work on your music.
That's them being nice.
Right.
And if they don't
or if they just ask you like procedural questions about, exactly. Dead giveaway that it's great. They ask if it's you that wrote it and did it after you're showing them, hey, this is my music. And then they're like, you wrote this? Or you made this? Dead giveaway. You're great.
Or you
should do it. You should market your music.
Because then they were okay putting their stamp of approval on it with their friends. No one runs around and goes.
Or someone asks, can you send this to me so I can show it to someone else?
That's a big one.
You got great music.
Oh, yeah. Or they start covering it. They ask you for the chords. Then you're like, oh my gosh, you're really onto something. But that's okay because you're not expected to be great. It's like whoever decided, it's like you can't go out and all of a sudden be a doctor tomorrow because you decided you wanted to be a doctor. You can't say, you know what, I'm going to be good at brain surgery and then tomorrow start cutting into people's heads. It just doesn't work that way. But for whatever reason, sometimes musicians think that they're different, and that's okay. Trust me, everything we hate about you guys is everything we love about you guys, because we need you to be you. I'm not getting my ass up on stage and doing this stuff. I need you to be able to do that. But what I'm trying to help people understand in as loving way as possible is I was at American Idol when this guy got on there and sang and was terrible. And when the judges told him, you could see that was the first time that anybody ever told him that he sucked.
Right.
And he was terrible. I mean, out of pitch, out of range, but the look on his face. So when you guys see the looks on those people's faces, that's because they surrounded themselves with people that coddled them. Oh, baby, you're so awesome. Right. Just because you get up on stage and sing, oh, you're so good. You're this. Great. I'm good. My mom loves me. I'm going to go to American Idol. I'm going to go to the, so it's like, we're not here to hurt anyone's feelings. We're not here. What we're here to say is this, is all you need to do is go find 1,000 people that love your stuff and give opportunity to buy multi-year, and you've got a 6-figure income. Out of the 7 to 8 billion people that are in the world, let's go find 1,000. If we're having a hard time finding 1,000, we may need to look at the music. We may need to look at that you're fishing in the right pond. We may need to look at all those things to make sure it's right. We're not coming down on you. I mean, when I first started with Taylor, it's like she had never really played in front of an audience before. She had done karaoke and a couple national anthems, but she had never really performed before. So when we're out on radio tour, and what radio tour is that we have to go out and build relationships at these radio stations. The new artists will go in, they'll play in a conference room. Most of the time, it's 5 to 10 people. Half of them don't want to be there. They're salespeople at the radio stations that got drug in to this conference room. But you need to go in and play like you're playing for 500 people. You need to go in and build relationships. So I was on the West Coast. So I started with Taylor working for the record company. I wasn't her manager in the beginning when I started working with her. I was part of the record company. So we were in California. So we would go from San Diego to Riverside to LA. So I told her, I said, look, if you want to get better I'm going to need to focus on what's not working. And I don't have time to just kiss your ass and tell you how great you are. She goes, I don't want that. And I looked at her mom and I said, look, Mama Bear, that's what I called her mom. I said, I know your daughter's never had a bad day. She's never sounded whatever. In order for me to fix what we got to fix, it's always going to come across like I'm being negative. All I'm doing is focusing on what we need to fix because we may only have an hour and a half. Guys, that's what I want to
Right.
tell you with people like Circa and Corinne and Jack and myself is when we come to you, trust the fact that we've got your best interest at heart. Okay. We're not retiring off the money that you're paying us, but your success, our business success is based on your success. So when we see how hard you're working at something and we come and say, you know what, you've been a little pitchy. We may want to work on this. That's not saying us saying we don't love you anymore. That's not us saying we don't want success for you. That's just us trying to say, hey, if we're going to be able to take it to that next level and give you the tools to get it to that next level, there's just some work that needs to be done. It's no different than an athlete. No one graduates high school and pitches in the majors, no matter how high they got drafted. They always start down in the lower divisions to work their way up to that. We all, there's potential. We just got to nurture that potential.
I don't even try to like get in at the level of like, you still need to work on the music, because I find that like how you make, like, for instance, like I play guitar shitty and I just don't have the like mind for it really. I mean, I try, like I practice, I've been playing for years and years, like a decade, and it's fine. Like I'm just not a shredder, right? How I figured out how to make that work for me is so personal to me and what my style is that I would hate to be like, oh, your voice is kind of creaky and pitchy. Here's how we're going to address that. Here's how we're going to fix it. Instead of them figure out the way that that's going to be beautiful, what context they're going to couch it in, how they're going to make it work. Like that's so intensely personal and creative that it could be like the first time that anyone's ever heard someone do it like the way that you figure it out, which is why I try to stay out of like the like getting to great in terms of like your musical style it's something that needs to be worked on, like like you need to have a lot of trust with someone who's going to help you develop that,
Well, and that's why I'm in a different situation, because people are coming to me asking my opinion. And if you're going to ask my opinion, I always tell people, don't hand me something that's fully produced, because one, are you going to open up the session and make the changes that I might suggest to you? Usually what I hear are poor written, okay produced songs. Come to me guitar vocal. I'm going to listen for lyrics. I'm going to listen for certain things. I have a radio background. I spent 15 years in radio. And if you're trying to get it on the radio, yeah, I can listen and go, we didn't understand it. There's no hook. There's no this. I have enough of that understanding. When it comes to production, I send you to a producer. When it comes to writing better songs, I send you to a songwriter. But when it comes to your vocals and you're getting lazy and you didn't warm up, you need somebody to tell you. You may need to go work with a vocal coach in order to get better. Every superstar works with vocal coaches. Every superstar, it's like we those are tools. There's certain people that are just lazy, and I don't settle for that. I don't believe if I'm going to, we owe it to our consumer that's going to purchase from us not to be lazy. I talk about this a lot with the bands that I work with. I said, how often have you shown up at a venue, pulled out, gone to the bartender, asked for a napkin to write your set list? I'm like, wow, I'm glad you put so much thought into this show that these people just paid to see.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So really what, if I'm getting it correctly, I think what you do at that level is you're there to advise indies on the raw like business output. So like, what do you not know about business? Let's make sure you get your business fundamentals like correct, but also how to like so you've kind of got both worlds. You've got like, you see what we see in terms of like how the music industry should be, but you've also had experience in that older music industry and know how to like kind of negotiate between both worlds.
Right. And what I've done is I've explained to people is it's like, now that I'm doing more management with people and I'm managing hundreds of people right now, they're like, oh my God, how can you manage hundreds of people? It's like, well, there's a difference between a personal manager and a day-to-day manager. Day-to-day management, I don't do. Personal management, it's coming up with strategy, big picture, making sure that you have all the tools that are right, holding you accountable, making sure that if this is what it is that you want, helping you figure out the plan in order to get there. making sure that you're prepared for whatever opportunities come your way. There's a lot of people that get opportunities before they're ready for it. And this industry right now is so crowded that we're looking for reasons to say no. So let's not give them any. Let's not get in there just because you learned how to drive doesn't mean you're ready for a Ferrari. You may have never driven a stick before. So let's start in a Volkswagen, and let's work your way up to that. So it's having somebody who can give big picture, also help you with the small things. It's like one of the biggest mistakes I made early on was I started all these social media programs teaching people how to get their music out there. And I helped an artist get on Radio Disney. And about 6 months later, I said, hey, just out of curiosity, I said, what did your sound exchange check look like? And they're like, what sound exchange? And I'm like, holy shit. It's like they didn't even know how to register their music. And, not everyone collects the same amount of money and distributes it right. So I went backwards and said, okay, first thing I need to do is help them with their mindset, let them understand and help them figure out that this is a business. And if it's a business that they want to pursue, there's different ways that you can pursue it. And each way has a different path. And there's no right or wrong way. Whichever way you choose, that's what you choose for you. With every level higher you want to go comes a different level of expectation. So if you want to go there, then there's these expectations. Let's figure out what those are. And if you're prepared to do that, if you just want to stay here, that's okay too. The next thing is setting up your business properly to be able to take advantage of the opportunities to write certain things off, making sure your music's registered properly. Then we talk about your website, your email list, your social media, building relationships and things like that. And then we just kind of hold you accountable to the goals that you have decided that you want for yourself. We just try to help you make sure that they're realistic. So many people come to me and go, dude, I want to play stadiums. I'm like, you haven't even played 10 shows a year yet. We're a ways down the road before getting to stadium. So let's get 10 shows booked. Let's get 20 shows booked.
Right.
Hey, I want to make $100,000. Great. How much did you make last year? Well, I didn't make any. So why don't we start with 5,000? Then why don't we get to 25,000? It's just managing expectations. Too often people think that there's this stuff that's out there that's really not. And I'm just able to sit there from both sides, the major label, the indie, coming from radio, being a manager, working for labels. I'm just able to bring a different kind of thought process to it. But ultimately what I want to do is to sit down with that person and say, okay, what's the plan? Okay, great. Is it realistic?
Right.
Cool. So here's the steps that we need. And this is what's next. I think we're in a business of next. Okay, now that's happened. What's next? Okay, you got there. What's next? We're always in a series of what's next.
All right. So I definitely dig that. Now, if someone's heard all this and they're sort of like, all right, I dig what this guy's saying, but I need to know more. I need to hear more about your story. I need to learn more about your knowledge level and kind of hear you talk some jazz. Where do I go to do that?
Go to managemymusiccareer.com. managemymusiccareer.com. What you're going to be do there is you're going to be invited to take the management assessment. And are you ready for a manager? And I'm just going to ask you some questions. It's like, do you have a website? Have you registered your music? Are you playing shows? Just to kind of know the level of where you're at. And then based on your answers, you're going to be invited to a free training where I'm going to teach you, are you ready for a manager? And I do them quite often. And we talk about what it is that a manager does. We talk about when you should start looking for a manager, what to expect from a manager. I share with you some never before told stories on certain situations that Taylor and I did and why we did it. I'll share with you a whole bunch of different artists from independent to rock and roll Hall of Famers like Cheap Trick, who came to me for different reasons at what they wanted in their career. I teach you a lot of different strategies we use that you can take with you and try and apply yourself. And then we talk about maybe if I'm the right guy to be a part of your team. But the way I look at it is let me earn that right. I'm not for everyone. You and I talk about this. I'm like sushi. I'm an acquired taste. I'm not for everyone. If you want someone who is not only going to show you the work that needs to be done, there's too many people that are telling you what's going on. I mean, this is something Circa and I laugh about all the time. There's a lot of great marketers out there that will read a book and then write a book about the book they just read. Screw those guys, man. It's like there's people teaching you, here, we're going to teach you how to be a hit songwriter. And I'm like, dude, you haven't written a hit in 15 years. So how are you doing that? So What I try to do is to sit there and say, here's the thing. If you want somebody to help you put your plan together, if you want someone to help you make sure that you've got everything in place to execute that plan, if you want someone to hold you accountable, if you want someone, if they don't know the answers, can point you in the direction to get the answers, we'd probably work really well together. If you're looking to be famous, go do a sex tape, put it on YouTube. You might get a fragrance, marry a rapper, and get a TV show out of the deal. I can't help you be famous, but I can help you be successful as long as we have the right reasons that you're doing this and what success means to you.
Right. That's so okay. So managemymusiccareer.com.
Yes, sir.
That's a badass domain right there.
Dude, I got it for $11.
Right. Smart.
I learned that from you, man.
That's
Just like, if it makes sense, go find it. Well, here's what was happening is I told you I have a coach in the digital marketing space, and he was looking at one of my funnels, and he's a great copywriter, as you guys are. And he looked at it, he goes, Rick, he says, I'm curious. He goes, I see you using the word coaching and mentorship all the time. Is that what they use in the music side of things? And I'm like, no, man, I'm really having to convince these people that they need coaching and mentorship. He goes, but you're a manager. I said, yeah. He goes, what's the difference between what you do for your management clients and what you do for your coaching and mentorship clients? I go, nothing. He said, then why don't you give them what they want and let you become their manager? And I said, honestly, because I don't want a bunch of mediocre artists running around town telling everyone that Rick Barker is their manager. He goes, that's your ego. He goes, get over yourself. I'm like, shit, dude. Right. What do you mean get over myself? He said, Rick, here's the thing, is if you could explain to people what that means to have you as their manager and the responsibilities that come along with that on both of your parts, and you pre-frame that in the beginning, he said, you're going to find some fantastic clients. And all of a sudden, when I changed that wording, all of a sudden people were coming to me in a different way going, okay, wait a minute. This is what I've been waiting for. And I'm like, my products haven't changed. My offer has changed. And that's what everybody says. Right. Book, story, offer. Same thing with you guys. So what I did is I said, okay, how can I help as many people as possible? One is I had to eliminate some things from my life. I eliminated all my day-to-day management clients. I got rid of them. I handed them off to other managers that could handle that. One other thing I did this year, and I'm just going to be straight up with you guys, is I also fired my record company client. I got rid of a 6-figure guaranteed income because I was getting tired of beating my head up against a wall, trying to convince them to do the right thing. I was sick and tired of having to put out fires that I didn't create. And Circa knows, because I've talked to him in detail about this particular label and about the frustrations that I was having. But it's like, I'm the Coast Guard. I can only help those people that are swimming towards me. Everyone who's swimming away from me, let them drown. I can't chase them, and I can't fix all of them. I can only help the people that are swimming towards me. So by freeing up that time, getting rid of the day-to-day clients, it's allowing me the opportunity to help more people. It's allowing me the opportunity to be able to get what I feel that I'm worth. You know, it's like we're worth what someone's willing to pay us. That's the bottom line. But I feel comfortable with where I'm at in my business right now, the success that I'm having with my independent clients. Because I tell everybody, great, Taylor, you're going to listen to me because of her, but you should be asking, what success are you having with older artists? What success are you having with artists that aren't on record labels? What success are you having with people that aren't on booking agents? You'll find out all of that inside managemymusiccareer.com, because I'm going to show you. That's the stuff you should be asking. What can I do for you? Don't come and make me tell you a whole bunch of, this is what I did for all these big people. No, what can I do for you? That's the question you should be asking yourself.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking an hour to come talk to us. We're going to be dropping some of your talk from CD Baby on the vlog awesome. At some point, probably around the time this is coming out. So there's a great chance to like catch up. And the reason we didn't go heavily into like strategies and like things you can do that are cool as a musician to promote yourself is because he did so much of that in the talk that I want to like cut together like a master cut of that. But yeah, you can expect both of those out. And once again, people can find you at managemymusiccareer.com.
Yes, sir. And they can also follow me on Instagram at Rick Barker Music. But start with managemymusiccareer.com. That will get you exactly where you need to go.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Appreciate you, my friend, as always.
And I'll see the rest of you indies on the next Creative Juice.